Well, hello, hello. Give me 1 minute while I on. Well, hello, hello. Give me Facebook. 1 minute while I Give me 1 minute. I may just have to take full responsibility for the fact that I am really feeling tired. And I was in pretty much half thinking that I wouldn't even go live today. So just bear with me 1 moment. Hello, hello Facebook people. Hello, my beautiful YouTube followers. I am so grateful that you are here with me. I know that if you are anything like me, highly sensitive, an empath, that you have been finding it really difficult to balance your own health, to not take on other people's pain. As the shadow worker, we're all light workers, are shadow workers. You know, we're all doing our best to contribute to bringing more light onto the planet at this time when there is just so much of the shadow coming up and so much being triggered. And I've been really quiet this week, and like many of you that have been speaking to me privately in our sessions, or just to say hello, I love you and I see you. I've been finding myself, as I said this week, and probably for before my birthday, I always get a little weird of before my birthday, that I've had to go deeper within, kind of almost retreat, and thinking of my daughter who is born in Cancer. And as we're going into this Cancerian energy, that it has been not even a negotiable. It hasn't even been a, well, maybe I could, but that I have to in order to preserve and call in my energy. I've had to really use my subtle and normal senses to really listen much, much more deeply. And being that Gemini, duality of contrast, be able to hold space. And I found it very difficult at times to hold that space, to be able to witness and listen as the wise ascended aspects of myself in conversation, and a lot of times in a lot of internal protests coming from my very tender wounded child parts this week. And the weeks before it, you know, with this whole Black Lives Matter, knowing that, you know, my legacy is growing up in a country colonized by Britain, knowing that a lot of the racism things have provoked me into listening even more deeply and speaking less, and also in just preparation for what is to come. You know, where are we going? Where do we find home? I've been finding myself missing my sense of place in what I call home. Yes, it's always in the heart, but in the belonging, and feeling very exiled. You know, that I've been wandering most of my life, as a borderland, but just coming up, you know, to almost a year that I left my daughter behind in South Africa out of choice, but still that separation of a mother away from her daughter has really been getting to me this week, when there is not the freedom of choice to actually get on a plane and bring her here, or for me to go to South Africa and see her. And I guess all of it, if you can relate, I'd love to hear your hell yes in the comments of, let me just look at the comments. Hi everybody. But yes, stay with me if you've sort of been feeling not just a physical exhaustion, but almost like a very tender, painful discomfort in the bones, in the muscles. You know, it's very visceral. I've been feeling a lot of tension and pain on the responsibility, right? The shoulders, carrying a lot of weight of helping or wanting to help and support, moving, in the grief walking, this collective grief, and also a lot of grief that's been very close to my heart in tracking lost animals. I've had a couple of dogs and a cat go walk about over the last 2 weeks, and I find it very difficult. It's one of the lessons that I'm still learning on how do I hold space to be of contribution to finding that animal, or getting closure on perhaps that animal's soul contract being left, and leaving their humans, and not physically drain my energies. And I've just sort of felt it in my sexual chakra, around the whole, sort of like a ring, almost squeezing the life out of my lower back. So a lot of existential fear and survival patterns coming up in this sort of chaos crisis, this chaos pattern that we're in right now, and feeling that on a very physical level, personally, and as witness, as a medicine guide for the people that are asking me to support them, and trying to find a balance in between that, between leaking energy out, and literally draining my batteries, draining my kidneys, to the point where no amount of Epsom salt bath or breath work, or rolling on a foam roller, or stretching my lower back has quietened that sort of primal scream that I'm feeling, and perhaps that you can relate to. It's been really, really brutal, to the point where I have almost surrendered, for most part of the time, as I sit here and I allow myself to feel the discomfort in my body, and to know that there's something that I need to learn around existential survival, and finding place. And it's an aching in the bones, but it's also a longing in the heart, right? To ask for support from ancestral helping spirits, from my cells, from my DNA, right? That carries the line of survival patterns that have created me to be able to be here now, because my ancestors survived many things, and not comparing it to where we are now, but they survived in order for us all to be here. So really asking and getting curious about, what is it that I need to hear, or what is it that I need to receive right now. And it reminds me of that beautiful quote from Woman Who Runs with Wolves, Clarissa Piccola Estes, that and she says, tell the truth. Tell the truth about your wound, and then you will be truthful, or you'll get a truthful picture of what remedy to apply to it. And this is why I wanted to call this the antidote to the corona chaos cycle that we're in right now. Because as the horses have told me too, and Carissa talks of in Women That Run with Wolves, is we don't want to be packing, whatever's easiest or most convenient or available to us into the void, into the 0 point field, into this sort of emptiness where there is this dull ache that just needs to be felt. It doesn't need to be fixed right now. We have to really hold out for the right medicine, and they know that in that waiting room, right, in the process of unbecoming, of unlearning, of unraveling, and we're in all of that right now, we get to recognize it when it shows up, because it makes us stronger in our living legacy rather than weakening and diminishing. And maybe this is just the fatigue and the tiredness, or the compassion and the empathy speaking right now to my own tender bit. So I hope this resonates with you in what I'm saying, that yes, the rubber is hitting the road, and there is so much going on that we have to allow ourselves to push pause, to say no more, to say stop, to limit the amount of exposure to the doom and gloom that we're hearing in the media and the news about, financial ruin and how long it's going to come out of this. And the question that probably you've been asking too of, if the governments are borrowing all this money that doesn't even exist, we as taxpayers are going to feel the effect of that in how they recoup that money. And that does bring up a lot of consternation. So how do you create your financial freedom right now in living moment to moment with the grace that you are enough, and that you will always have enough, even though that may not feel true for you right now? And it kind of brings me back around to that place of allowing others to have their own experience, to make their own choices, and to be there as this beautiful moon, this Cancerian moon that we're going into in this eclipse period. And my beloved daughter as my own growth partner, how the Cancerian, the crab carries her home on her back, that you are home, that you have always been home, that we create home in our heart. So if we have exiled, or through abandonment, self-abandonment, or self-shredding and judgment and rejection and blaming and shaming, and we've cast or literally evicted ourselves from our own heart home, then we need to find a way to come back. And Cancer is the sensitivity of the mother. So the mother wound coming in, the 21st of the month, it's Sunday, is this big eclipse and this big, great next shakeup it has a lot of relevance for me, because it's my beloved sister Debbie's birthday on the 21st, and we have solstice, the coming up, that we're kind of hit the midway point of 2020, and it's this 4 energy. And if you know numerology, 4 is about the unlearning. 4 is about unraveling, and it's a collective healing that has to happen, because you are whole, heal, and complete within yourself. So this is the rebirthing period. But before we can rebuild, before we can lay down new foundations, we have to continue to be in this chaos cycle for as long as it takes, and allow the old to fall apart. And for some, like you, maybe the old is your sense of place, of home, of your body of work, or your body of of familial inheritance, to really do that deep shadow work of healing those trauma lines and mother, reparent, remother the frightened child parts of you that are ready to come home. So I think Cancer is a really fitting archetype. I think it's Father's Day in some parts of the world too. And again, isn't that just beautiful in the duality and the contrasts of the sort of Gemini retrograde that we've been in, of that it's not black or white or either or, right? That we have choice points, but in order to come into this loving heart energy, which is what June's always all been about, is the heart energy, the heart chakra, and the energy centers of the heart is how do we stay open? How do we keep the left ventricle of the heart, which is the one that receives? How do we keep that beautiful love pumping through our veins, because of this beautiful heart? That's not only a muscle that's incredibly strong and resilient and has survived much heartbreak before and will again allow our hearts to break open so that we can be open to receiving and forgiving the old patriarchal imbalances. You know, what does father energy mean to you? And again, coming back to this reparenting, because Cancer is that archetype of the mother, and she is this beautiful cosmic womb, where we were all born from, of the earth, of the water, right, of the four elements. We are made up of all of it, and this is the preparation where we have to keep going back into the shadows of our past, right? Our historical culture, so that it doesn't keep duplicating a different version of that. And what this sort of whole eclipses series that we're going in, there's three eclipses this year. It's about transforming the shadows of the past, and that's the Scorpio South Node. And I get really excited about that because my North Node is in Scorpio. My South Node is my North Node is in Taurus. My South Node is in Scorpio. So this is very much for me mirroring what I've been working on for, I don't know, a couple of decades. But again, looking at how do we create harmony? How do we harmonize the patterns of disharmony, right? And balance this feminine, the masculine, so this beautiful love energy of Venus, right? The North Node in Taurus is ruled by Venus. The South Node is the Scorpio, right? Where this is very divisive. It's Pluto, it's Mars, it's warring. It can be quite aggressive and it can be quite uncomfortable. And here we are in the midpoint of it on a global scale, where we, again, coming back to this place of how do we process our own grief? Well, we have to go into the shadows and grieve well so that we can live well and be the light, right? The lighthouses for others, and allowing others to have their own process of grief and unburdening, not try and step in as the wounded healer or the rescuer, right? Or the good girl archetype, but to grow up our child parts in a good way so that we get to process our own grief and without draining ourselves. We're no good to anybody if we're drained. Trying to hold in the responsibility, right? How other people are responding to the grief and the anger and of all these trauma patterns that are coming up for us to clear. So I always want to make these short, and then I kind of get pulled in all sorts of directions, but I'm going to speak to this more when I feel the time is right. I feel like there is a big activation that's going to happen on the 21st, and I may show up and share that with you if that's something that you're interested in. But for now, just know that we are in the deep, deep waters of Cancer. And the moon is always, made of water. So the moon, full moons are always very watery, right? Because she wants us to start to feel all the feels. The moon rules emotions, and this is the period of time right now in many of us where we're deeply feeling it viscerally, somatically. We're feeling the grief and the loss, and the anger of all the emotions. Hi, Olivia. They're deep, deep emotions that are bringing up, right? We're getting to the root of a lot of our original core woundings, our original incidents that created trauma lines and patterns in the first place. And gosh, you know, I think that the earth herself is in this grieving process. There's a lot being unearthed and unburied, because these tectonic plates of our world is literally shifting. And again, there's this collective grief of the elephants and the whales that are very high at the moment in their grieving. And they're the ones that are the earth keepers. You know, they walk these ancient ley lines and grid lines, and they've been holding this beautiful blue planet that we call Earth in place. And everything is starting to shift right now, because their lives are also being threatened by extinction, by our unconsciousness. So this is a time for us all to be very, very gentle on our little soft bodies. Be gentle with your heart. Tread gently on the earth of your body. Be very compassionate right now. When you start to explore and uncover and ask generative questions on what is it that you need to start planting now that's going to create financial freedom for you in the future. And no, you know, we're in it for the long run. We don't need the news to tell us that this first, you know, we kind of had this corona try and wake us up. And now we've had, you know, where we've literally witnessed death for a lot of people. Seeing the death of George Floyd as a witness has shaken loose a lot of other lifetimes of where we've been perpetrators of, you know, the ones that have killed, or the ones that have been killed or been persecuted, been killed in the past, or witnessed it and perhaps done nothing. So we are literally, you know, just warming up, people. I really intuitively feel that we're in this till December. Maybe at the end of December, we will get to actually start to look at how do we actually start to build solid, strong foundations out of the ashes, like the phoenix rising. But we've got a long way to go. So I really, you know, want to show you and be here for you, whether that's in silent support or you joining these conversations or joining the private Facebook group of Healthy Body, Healthy Mind. We need to be able to use the tools and use our tools well with our discernment to strengthen our intuitive wisdom that's always been with us. We need to listen to that now. We need to trust that we have everything that we need, that we are enough, and that we will always have enough, and that we have this beautiful big toolbox. We need to access and use the tools. You know, if you don't use it, you lose it. This is not the time to lose it or yourself right now. It's pretty hard to lose yourself, but right now, I think a lot of people are getting lost and overwhelmed. We have to stay with it and learn how to reset our nervous systems, rewire our nervous systems, so that we can show up and do the work that we've come here to do. So, you know, stay the path, recalibrate, reset yourself to your true north. This is why it's called the practice. We have to keep coming back to it, and we cannot do it when we're depleted. We cannot do it when we're exhausted. And I think the antidote to chaos is a natural cycle. So receive it gracefully for what it is. see it for what it is, and ask how can you use it in a good way. And maybe that just starts with more allowance, more compassion, more listening to your own heart, to your own core desires, your own wants, your own needs. Listen to your body. And also remember that you can ask your body to slow down. You can ask your body to unhook from feeling the responsibility of holding collective grief and anger right now. Your body is your greatest consciousness facilitator, and it will show you, it will tell you what it needs, sometimes in the most uncomfortable ways. Like my body had this week, where eventually it literally floored me. It brought me to the ground, flat on my back, connected to the earth, so that I could recharge by grounding myself into the earth's molten lava core. And it is painful. It is not an easy journey, but it can be a lot simpler than we're making it. As we integrate, as we recalibrate, all right, we need to be flexible in our thoughts, feelings, and emotions as the one that creates all of that in our humanity, knowing that we are soul in a very soft, fleshy animal body. So empathy is being called for more and more, for yourself, for others who are hurting. We're all in this together. You know, this is the gift of all of this right now, even though we might not want it. Where are you in coming home to your heart is my question. Knowing that you've always been home in your heart, that you have always belonged. That is the message of the Cancerian mother. Beloved, you are home in your heart. Hand on heart, I love you, all the parts of you. Anchor into that, into the safety, right? Create your safety from trusting. Surrendering with grace, moment by moment, to be present with that truth. You are already home. Tend to your own internal garden so that you can be tender with others' bits, and you can be tender in the way that you use the earth's resources, giving thanks for water, for the air that we breathe, for the earth beneath our feet, and for the wind that blows visions and dreams into our physical form. You are already home, and I want you to really know that. It's a beautiful place to come home to your heart, and it's a homecoming over and over and over again. That's why we are in the practice of being human. Recharge, reset, recalibrate. Think of retrograde seasons as a remembering of who you are, not a return, but to take the wisdom of all that you've learned and move forward. Because these massive shifts are going to keep coming in waves, just as our nervous system goes up and it goes down, just as a wave knows that it is part of the ocean. Your nervous system needs to know that you are home, that it is safe to be you, that it is safe to express, it is safe to show up. It is safe to be you. And it is safe to love. You know, what about that? In the shadows as they come up, that the unconscious part of you, just like the moon eclipsing a little piece of the sun, it's the unconscious eclipsing the conscious self, that we need the light and the dark, that we are one in all of that. And I love all the parts of me. Bring your light into the conversation. Bring your gifts into the world. It's a very primal thing that we're in right now in this experience, because it's so watery. And Mars is going to be right up there, divisive, warring. It's going to keep smacking us in the face. So how do we surrender with grace into the present moment? How do we meet ourselves from the heart in grace by asking, what would love do here when we are in that internal protest, when we aren't feeling safe, when we're afraid to feel all the feels because it's very painful? My back is screaming at me right now. Excuse me. And just remember that even though you may not see what you need to see or feel what you need to feel right now, the time will come when you will know, when it's time to take aligned action. And right now for you, like me this week, maybe your aligned action right now has been non-action. It's been sitting in stillness, sitting in discomfort, going within. I'll be doing a lot more of that over the next coming days. And I invite you, to give yourself permission to do the same. Unhook from social media, stop listening to the doom and gloom on the TV, move away from people and things that are draining your life force energy. Ask your body, what does it require of you right now? Maybe that's drinking more water. Maybe that's moving more. Maybe that's cocooning. But, just know that as much as we're witnessing, as much as we're observing, we're energetically, psychically being attacked. It's a virus of the mind that is constantly wearing you down, whether you know it or not. And, I realize right now I'm in a place where I'm doing a lot of physical work, but this isn't about making it one thing. It's about acknowledging, gosh, in this moment, I am feeling the exhaustion of the collective. The collective is tired right now, tired of being cooped up, tired of being on pause, tired. But in order to be filled up so that we can make good of this massive reset, we have to really ground ourselves and recognize that we are souls in physical bodies and here to be, learning from what we can and finding out what we need to work with and where do we need to take action. And that's going to change depending on, where you're being triggered, where you're being activated by your old trauma and your collective trauma and your country's trauma. And that might be the country you're living in. It might also be the country of your birth. So, this is, as I said, do your shadow work. The more that you do, the more you're going to create stability and certainty so that you can restructure your own reality, and that will include your financial reality. So wherever you're feeling afraid right now, just know this is a great opportunity for growth and expansion. Find out where Saturn is in your chart. That's a really interesting one. 7th house for me is money and relationships. Guess where my Saturn is? And it's not like you do the work once and it's done. There's deeper levels, new level, new devil, as they say. So, find out where you're at right now, and work with it from a sense of empowerment, from a sense of certainty that this thing I can do, or avoid it and keep creating the same nightmare over and over again, the same Groundhog Day, more uncertainty, more overwhelm, more chaos in the chaos cycle. Find your own safety, come home to your heart, and remember that you came here to share your gifts and talents with the world. And there are people and places and non-human things that are waiting for you. Maybe that's a poem or sharing your story in the world, but they're waiting for you, not some version of you. And with your money or your values, when you can find a sense of what home looks like and what you think you have versus what you think you really actually have. Remember, we spoke about values and your value system the other day. Then you'll find what freedom means to you from a place of homecoming, and not just for you, but for others, for the earth. So I'll leave it at that. I just want to send so much love to you all. I know you're all sensitives, you're empaths, you're shadow workers, bringing your light. And I just, again, also want to just give a big love hug to all of you that have been working privately with me this week. I mean, I've been in awe of your courage, of just how strong you are to stay in your process right now. I know that there's so much personal, emotional upheaval, and so much purging. Just when you thought you couldn't possibly have any more, we found more this week. And in your process, I've been able to process my own. This is the beautiful part about giving and receiving when you're aligned with what you're here to do. And for me, that is helping people and animals heal from unresolved trauma, to rewire their nervous systems, to show up and stand in their truth in a good way so that they can do their work and get paid well for it. And I'm so privileged to be able to do that work. So thank you. Thank you for taking radical action, for getting to stand fully present right now in the chaos cycle that you're in, without needing to process the collective grief, but to really stand in your empowered self, your already ascended self. It takes a lot of energy, as I've spoken about, to allow others to have their own experience and not feel like you need to step in. That enabling, that advice is a form of covert abuse. It's also a very codependent pattern, and we have all been in that. So stay in your true north, stay in your true nature. Trust that you can ask your body to slow down and support you. Trust that you can ask the body of your work, or the body of your money, or the body of your community to show you what is required of you and what you need from them as well. Remember, it's a give and take. It's a gifting and receiving. It's mutual reciprocity. And that is very compassionate and very empathic when you can honor that interrelationship as well. So thank you for being the open wound. May you rest well in this period of your own emotional repatterning and transformation. I hold you in my heart. I honor you. I see you, and I love you with all my heart. So have a beautiful rest of your day. Celebrate your wins. It's Friday. And prepare yourself. Reach out if I can support you in any way. And may this beautiful new opening opportunity, this eclipse period on the 21st, this beautiful new moon in Cancer, bring you home to your mother, to your nurturing, loving Capricorn, Cancer mother. She loves you. You are so loved. All right. Bye, everyone. Mm-hmm.